Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Idiosyncratic Fables, a part of Wilderness Fire Productions, where we are cultivating the passion for books, audiobooks, and storytelling. Since time immemorial, we have been storytellers. Everybody has a story to tell, and I want to hear yours. I'm your host, James, and today I'm excited to welcome a true trailblazer in the audiobook industry, Jocqueline Protho. She's the visionary founder of The Audio Flow, an award-winning producer, director, casting director, and narrator. Through her imprints, 316 Audio, and especially Nubian Audio, she has championed diversity, amplified Black voices, and helped bring countless stories to life in powerful, full cast and heartfelt productions. From her roots in broadcast journalism and religious studies to building a company that mentored talent and supported indie authors, Jock has made a lasting impression on audio storytelling. She's recently stepped into a new chapter after her deep run with the Audio Flow, and I can't wait to hear about her journey, lessons learned, and what's ahead. So grab your headphones, get comfortable, and let's spark the narrative. Jock, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, James, thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. And when you asked me if I wanted to participate and we were saying May, I said, gosh, that's so far, but look, here we are already in May. So
I know. It's like you snapped your fingers and 3 months have gone by.
Yes, that is so true.
Now, you're a native of Gary, Indiana, with a degree in broadcast journalism and religious studies from St. Augustine's University, right?
Yes, that's correct.
How did those early experiences and your faith shape your path into the world of audio storytelling?
That's a good question. You know, when most people go to college, they're not really sure what it is they want to do. I had went to in high school, I went to the Gary Area Career Center, and it's kind of like vocational school. So in the afternoon, you kind of take on a trade, and so I was there for audio for broadcasting. So I said, I'm going to be on the news. And then they were like, but the camera adds 10 pounds. So I said, I don't want to do that. And then I wrestled with not really liking the sound of my voice. So my degree, I really didn't do anything with it until later. Religious studies came into being, you know what, God directs everyone's path, I believe. And I had a teacher there, and I really respected him, and I really wanted to have a deeper connection with God. And it just felt right to have my minor in biblical studies. And so I really enjoyed that. And again, like most things, I didn't really do anything until later. But, I am a true believer in everything happens for a reason. And that as we take journeys, no matter what we do and where we go, God is still there. And so he laid that foundation for me. And then I just kind of walked into it. And, some 20 something years later, some of these things that I have done and am doing now all started from that.
I love that. So before you founded The Audio Flow, you had a background in talent acquisition. What would you say sparked your love for audiobooks, and what was the aha moment that led you to start your own production company?
Well, it's funny because I actually started in the industry as a book reviewer, and so I used to do mostly those things, and it was with indie authors, and I really just connected with the stories that they were doing. So this was around 2013, 2014, somewhere around those lines. Okay. And I had never listened to an audiobook before. I know, they were out, but I was like most people who were usually apprehensive at first. No, I just want to read the book for myself. I don't want anybody reading it for me, blah, blah, blah. And so I had a reader group that also had authors in it. And Renee Mason who is an author, was in the group, and she had just released the audiobook, and she said, would you be interested in listening to it? And I was like, okay, sure, why not? And that was it. It was February. It had to be February 2016 was when I first listened to my first audiobook. And I just loved everything about it. I love the arts. I love musicals and plays. And to me, this was just another way to be able to see or hear a story. And it was just through orally. And I said, oh my gosh, I love it. And I tried to pick up every audiobook that I could in genres that I enjoyed at that time. And so I just ran through books, and I was like, there's got to be something that I can do in this field. And then I was like, oh, you went to school for broadcasting. Like, here we are. What can you actually do with that? So I didn't really go into the production part first. There was a couple of things that I did before that. I thought I was going to go into the promotion part where you do the audiobook tours, and I tried that, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I was good at it. That was not where I was supposed to go. And then I started podcasting. So that was kind of where the audio started to kick in. I was living in Arizona at the time. I really cannot tell you where the name The Audio Flow came from. And funny, it was actually called Audio Flow, and I don't know when I put the on it, but it was called Audio Flow. And I had started a podcast, and I was just basically talking to authors. And it was called, I think it was Booking Around Town at that time or something. Okay. And then I really enjoyed I really enjoyed podcasting. And then I said, I'm going to do another one. I'm going to see how I can get this to work with audio, because at that time I was connecting with narrators. And so that's when the Audio Flow started. The Audio Flow was a podcast first. So I interviewed Richard Riemann, and he was on my show, and I really enjoyed what he was doing. He was really helping indie authors get their books into audio, and he was going through some things with his family, and his wife became terminally ill, and he was like, I really need somebody to help me with projects and producing and casting. You seem to enjoy that. You've got a good ear for it. And so he brought me in as a partner, and that was really my foot in the door to audiobook production. And that was in 2018. So really outside of God, people that I owe a lot of thanks to and gratitude to for getting me, where I was Renee for that first audiobook I listened to, and Richard, and also Aaron Spencer, who we can talk about later.
Sure. So what were some of the biggest challenges in those early days, and how did the company grow from that?
The biggest challenges at that time was really understanding the worth of what it was that I was doing and trying to accomplish. I did not know how to put a monetary value on it. So, coming into the industry at that time and not really understanding a lot of the ins and outs, not really fully understanding what royalty share was and wasn't, and how it was at that time. I didn't realize that royalty share was more of a benefit for the author than the narrator. And so a lot of projects that I did, I really persuaded clients to go with that, because again, I didn't fully understand it. I was like, well, they're going to get paid at some point, but then you don't really think about, well, it depends on if the book makes money. If the book doesn't really stream in anything, then guess what? That person did it for free and they don't get anything for like years. And so that was a struggle, was really understanding that, because it is a business and you want everybody to be happy. You want the listeners to be happy. You want the author who's paying for it to be happy, and also the performer. So I'm balancing all three of these things. And that's kind of where my, when we talked about me being in talent acquisition as a recruiter, that's the same thing I do in my my regular work. I'm working for 3 different people: the organization, the hiring manager, and also the person that is going to fill the role. So it was very similar to that. And like I said, was thinking about the monetary value. How much do I charge for what it is that I do? Early on, we were not doing full production. We were not doing any of the proofing. We were not doing the editing or anything. It was strictly me casting and managing. So, I charged a lot less then because I really wasn't doing all those things. But once we moved into like full production and Danielle came in as my partner and doing those things, and we found, proofer, then we started prepping and all of that. Then it's like, okay, we are offering these full services. How much do we charge?
Right.
And so it was very difficult to try to figure that out, but not, but still let people know I'm still new in it, but we're going to be great. And I didn't want to short sell myself either. So really figuring that out was the hardest. And I tell you, I probably didn't figure that out until it was almost the end. But in the beginning, it was rough. It was rough because I'm like, I'm paying for part of this book and it's not enough. And the money is coming out my pocket to pay for things. And you should never run a business where you're paying for anything yourself like that. In startup, yes, but at some point you should be making a profit. And if you're not making a profit, then the business is not working. So
it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Now, when the audio flow is up and running, you've won awards, like including recognition as a top casting director. Yeah. Walk us through how you approach matching voices and talent to a project, and if you even have like a favorite casting story or memorable, like perfect fit moment.
Yeah, once I listened to my first audiobook, I don't know, it's just like something clicked in my ear with being able to hear not only what that person performed, but the potential. So I used to start listening for how can I work with this person or this person's voice to cast them in areas outside of what they're known for. It's kind of like stretching a person's talent, very similar to, television, actors who do theater. They don't always want to do the same type of roles. They look at ways where they can stretch their skills or do something they haven't done to see if they can do it and even like it. So anytime I would just be listening to an audiobook for just for pleasure, I would write names down and I'd say, oh, I would love to work with them. And I think they would be good in this type of book. If I ever get a book like that, I'm going to follow up with them and see if they're interested. And it's kind of how I met you. I think I think I cast you for something. And again, it was a while ago. I don't remember, but I heard, oh, you know what? I think you did one of the, I did like a podcast. It was Sounds of Something, I think. Anyway, I heard you do an accent and I was like, oh, you've got to be Vlad, right? So yep. that was one of the things. It's like, I try to listen to the voice and then I might hear you do something for fun somewhere. And I'm like, hey, have you ever thought about doing this type of book? You're interested. Here's the script. Read it for me. Now, for me, for casting, there are several different ways that I went about it. Sometimes I would not know what I was looking for, and I would just throw a wide net out there and say, here's the book. Here are some of the key things that you'll need for the audition, and send it in. And I wouldn't know what it was I was looking for until I heard it. So it was kind of like the blind audition, if I could compare it to like The Voice. It's like the blinds. Am I going to turn? Right. Is it a 3-chair turn or whatever? And then the other way would be my authors or clients would come to me and say, I trust you, so I just want you to cast the book. And they would just kind of give me little information. They're this age, this is where they're from, they have this type of, accent, etc. And then I would just, in my head, think about, okay, here's several different people I know that can do that. I'm going to send it to them if they're interested, and they'll send it back. And then I'll pick the top 3 or 5 and send it to the client and let them select. And then the other way was I would get a title, and I would already know in advance who I want to narrate. And I would just reach out to them and say, I have this book, will you do it for me? So that's kind of the ways that I went about my casting. It just would depend on what project I'm working on. One of my, I would say, I don't know if this was, one of my favorites was doing Mysteria, because that was the largest cast. And I've done large cast projects, but that was the largest one with the most with the most characters that had all kind of voices. Okay. A lot, people could just do whatever they wanted with it. That was my intention for that book. It was a fun middle grade children's book, and I wanted people to come in, and I just wanted them to have fun with it. I didn't really give any direction on what I want you to sound like. Here's the script. You do it. You go in, you got to play my villain. I didn't care what you sound like.
Yeah.
That seemed like you had fun with it. I think a lot of people had fun with that project.
I think doing Mysteria, one, was tons of fun for me, but honest to goodness was probably the first audiobook that I've ever sneezed in, and it made it on tape.
It was meant to be, James.
It was meant to be.
It's funny because sometimes things will happen, and Danielle would be, Danny, she doesn't like when I use her full government name, but Danny she would say, I think I left it in there because I think it went with the script. And I was like, I trust you, so you leave it in there. And then in that book, again, it was, I selected people that I really wanted to work with. I don't think I didn't do a casting call. It was just, I reached out to people and I said, I'm doing this children's book, and I know this isn't technically the genre you work in, but I remember you said you wanted to do such and such, and I want to hire you. So, I just reached out to people that I really respected and wanted to work with, and I hired them all. And then I loved being able to hire actual children who had not specifically done audiobooks before, but they do animation. So Amari, who was our lead in that book, she's doing Hey AJ on Disney Plus. She does She does a lot of voiceover for Disney Plus. And Carter, he is also doing film and television, and Brendan the same. So it's just good to see. We were the first people that hired them to do audiobooks, and to see them go on and do additional great things. And then I would say another one of my favorite projects was a book called Intensification, which is pen pals and serial killers. And it's by Joe Michaels. And I hired Jason Clark, who is known for doing, romance audiobooks. And I was like, I want you to do this book because I've never heard you do, like, this is totally far outside of the box of anything you've ever done. And he just nailed it. Like, it was just he just performed it so well. It was really creepy for him, but it was just really well done. And that's what I mean. Like, I listen to people and I'm like, yeah, I know you're known for that, but have you ever thought about doing this type of role? Because I want to hear that, because I know there's potential for you to do it. Plus, you're an actor. You can pretty much do anything. So do
exactly.
it. Do it for me.
Exactly. Let's talk about your distinct imprints along with AudioFlow. I'm talking about 316 Audio, Nubian Audio. What inspired each one of those, and how would you say they reflect your personal values and vision for the industry?
Well, I will tell you, right now I'm trying to remember which one came first. I think Nubian Audio might have started first, because that came during, it was right during COVID, I believe. And I was a part of I was a part of APA, and I actually was a board member in APA, but I think this was pre my years when I was on the board, and we were really talking about diversity. So diversity just kept popping up everywhere, and I think in one of the surveys of people were really writing about the diversity that's needed and that was needed in the industry for to bring more people in, more authentic voices to be able to portray characters in in different books. And so it was just a lot of back and forth with people trying to figure out things. And if you don't know me, I normally do not sit and wait for things to happen. If I hear it and there's a need, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it and see what happens. I'm that throw that net out and see what gets hooked in the net and catch it. He said he was gonna make me fishers of men, so maybe I was a fisher of voices too at the same
there
time.
You go.
And so I said, well, I'm gonna start an imprint, and it's gonna focus on Black voices. Actually, I don't even think that's what it started out as. If it just was like persons of color, I think somebody changed. I don't know, but it ended up just being amplifying Black voices.
Right.
And I started it, and I was like, well, what am I going to name it? Because that's usually the thing. The name drives what it is that you're going to do. If you don't have the name, then you're just kind of like, I'm starting this imprint. It doesn't have a name yet. It's called Imprint, to be determined. And I prayed about it, and Nubian audio came, and I was like, okay, there it is. And I went to my state business website, and I put the information in, or I went through legal Zoom, one of those, and I put the information in, and like a week later, there was the imprint, Nubian Audio. And so it's like, well, what am I going to do with it from here? And I just reached out to people that I knew and that I had worked with and that I enjoyed listening to. And I said, I'm starting this imprint. And also people that I knew was looking to get into the industry, but didn't really know how. And I said, I'm starting this imprint, and here's what it's about. Would you be interested in joining? And that's when, I met so many people through that imprint and reached out to authors and, pitched it out there. So it was kind of, I think it started before we started seeing more of the big publishers decide that they were going to build communities and have mentors and things like that. I think one publisher had done it before, but then they started, bringing that back around. And then I started seeing more people create imprints or production companies that did focus around that. And one of the things that I don't talk about this often, but have you ever Googled yourself? You ever Googled yourself?
I have.
Okay. And did you look at things and you're like, wow, did you ever look at it and say, wow, I didn't know that? Or I forgot that was a thing, that I did that.
Oh, last time I did it was probably like pre-COVID, so like 2019.
Uh-huh.
And I forget who recommended it. It was probably one of the free coaching sessions that I attended with like 20 other people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you Google yourself and make sure that, voiceover pops up next to your name. Like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let me go ahead and do that. But yeah, it was pretty interesting to see all of the different little snippets that would pop up next to my name.
Yeah, and then you're like, wow, I'm in Google, I'm out there in the space, in the interweb. And so I was like Googling myself, or I was looking for publishers, like audiobook publishers. And I was real specific, and I was like, African American female audiobook publishers. And there were none.
Hmm.
And I was like, I am an African American woman who owned an audiobook publishing company, the only one, or the first one. And the reason I brought that up is because we make history, and everything we do, we have done something that has been the first for something. and it shows other people what they can do or inspires other people. And so, just my journey from that first audiobook, for meeting Richard, for Janae, um, uh, gosh, I'm gonna forget her name. She's probably gonna like forgive me, Janina. From Janina doing the first book that I actually published. And talking to her and like I mentioned about Erin, getting insight from her, those things helped. Even with Nubian Audio, I reached out and asked questions. How do you think I should present this? And it wasn't just from people who look like me who gave me that information. So, you don't always have to just kind of make it seem separate. Other people have information to provide you as well. And I took all of that with me. 316 is my love child. It's my love child because anybody who reads the Bible or even thinks or even understands the purpose of 316 knows that it's a scripture. So it's John 3:16. And I said, I want to produce and I want to publish Christian faith-based inspirational audiobooks. And to this day, James, that is still something that I am going to do.
Okay.
I did not retire that name. I did not close out 316. Again, it's my love child. I want people to know that God inspired me and led me to audiobook production, because he took the gift that he gave me way before and my education, and he allowed me to do it for this. And I don't believe that 316 was meant to sit on a shelf. So anyway, I said that I wanted to do this, and again, I prayed about it, and I was like, well, what am I going to call it? What am I going to call it? I went through a whole lot of names. I was like, Love Inspired. And somebody was like, well, no, that's the name of the Harlequin for their inspirational something. So I was like, oh, okay, can't use that. And so John 3:16 came to me. And I was like, okay, so God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And I was like, this is what I'm going to go with. And then I was like, well, what other companies are named 316? Because it was supposed to be 316. But then somebody else had a company called 316. So I had to say 316. So that's why that's why it says 316 audio. So people, there you go. There it is. But I wanted to let it be known that it is a scripture. So John 3:16, and one day it's gonna resurface. So you just stay tuned. But it inspired me, and it still inspires me. And I was able to produce and publish produce a couple of books under that imprint, publish a couple of books that was under that imprint. And do some free productions, because we used to do that as well. I do one free production every year, and a couple came out there. But I love 316, and I want to say 316 is my favorite.
Okay. Got a bit of a funny story for you. Going back to Nubian Audio. During my first 3 years of audiobook narration and finding out from actually one of my high school friends, Steve Quinn, who he and I were in theater together back in Grapevine High School. Hi, Steve, if you're listening.
Hi, Steve.
He pointed me in the direction away from ACX. He said, dude, you need to get on publishing rosters. I went, what does that mean? And he said, well, you can start here, just send him an email and ask. And so I did something similar. I was like, okay, audiobook publishers in a Google search, and Nubian Audio was one that popped up, and I went, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to apply. God bless you, Jock. You reached out to me and you said, James, thank you so much for your interest, but I have to tell you no, and I'm sorry. But I do invite you to research what the word Nubian means, because there's a part of me that thinks you knew who I was and also what I didn't know.
I'm glad
without saying it.
I'm glad you told that story because it reminded me of where I remember you from. It was Instagram, and
Yep.
I heard you were doing something on Instagram, and you had reached out to follow me, and I was like, I'm gonna follow you back. And at this time, so I had a roster, but then I stopped using it. And I still have my very first roster today with my 65 people, 70 people on it. But anyway, so I used to like to just go online and like listen to people and find them and like reach out. And I remember you were doing something on Instagram and I reached out to you too. And I was like, hey, I think we're connected somewhere. I remember getting an email from you or something. And I was like, but follow me on the audio flow. Like, would you be interested in? And then that is when I was, started sending you auditions and I was like, come in, audition. So yeah, I remember now. It's like, I know I met you on some social media platform. Because that's how I met a lot of people is like, I just follow on social media and reach out and connect that way.
So after the fact, I did my homework and looked in the dictionary what Nubian meant and went, oh, yeah, I am very much not dark-skinned.
You can still be a brother. It's okay. We all related.
Of course.
Generation down.
Look, I am a firm believer that we are all just different shades of dirt.
That is the truth. We're all dirt.
Yeah, 100%. I had a teacher many, many years ago held up a sheet of paper, plain, no lines on it. And he said, ladies and gentlemen, this sheet of paper right here is white. If I were this color, I would be dead. And I went, oh, that's brilliant. I'm going to use that.
That is so true. Like nobody's white like that.
Nobody.
and I'm not the color of this. So,
no.
We're just all shades of dirt. Like some just dirtier than others. Some
that's
are
it.
sandy and so yeah, that's where we're going.
Yeah. Another gentleman I saw on one of those small YouTube reels said that we were all different shades of brown. I went, yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, and then exactly. the young man holds up an actual color chart of the different shades of brown. I'm like, ooh, there's mine right there. Sand.
Sandy. I'm not that far from sand either. So we just get sandy together.
Absolutely. Now, you've worked on a wide range of projects, like you've already mentioned a few, with, full cast productions, dozens of performers, including kids, to romance, Christian titles, and more. What would you say makes a story particularly compelling in audio format?
Oh, gosh. I had to start with the writing, which is interesting because, without good writing, the story won't be as effective. Everybody that I have worked with are impeccable writers. And so when I connect to the story, it's easy for me to sell it for my performers to connect to the story. One of the things that I think that makes a audiobook compelling is definitely the acting and allowing actors the ability to act. For me, even though I did some directing and things like that, I tried not to direct much because I like for people to be able to use their own creative interpretation of that story to deliver. Outside of anything that the client gives me that I can provide, like, this is where they're from, here's a little backstory on the character, because that's going to help with the actor get into the story. And then they can feed off of that and then take it to that performance level. So, that's one of the things. I also, I did not get to do a lot of productions with like full on graphic with sound effects, which is what I would love to do at some point if I do it. Like I'd love to just do like the 10 Commandments in an audiobook format,
Oh, that'd be
That would
sweet.
be so fun. Or the book of Jonah or something like that. But anyway, I didn't get to do one of those. However, I've done several where there was performances where people were they sang, and they didn't have to, but they did. And I think that brings something special to a performance. I love full cast productions, but something is something very special about solo as well, because you get to hear that one person carry out the entire book for any type of character that's in there, and they have to dig deep to perform all of that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that is just as phenomenal, because I don't think I started doing full cast for another like year and a half after I started. So most of them were either solo or duet. And then we did like dual. When we started doing duets, that's when we really started going into full. It was like, well, let's add one more person. So it's 3 people. Okay, let's add one more. So we got 4. And then I was just like, let's just keep adding people. I want this person to just do. I want to hire the main people, but then I want my minor character to my secondary performer to come and do all the minor characters. So it's still giving them that opportunity to perform. But those are things that I think make the production great, and also the engineer. So sometimes we like just think about like the performance and the writing, but it's the whole package, the follow-up, the completion, putting everything together. What's that quality sound like? Because I'm I'm a snob. I will listen to books now, and it's like, I can't believe they put that out. Did you hear that person? Did you hear they left that edit in? And I want to go type to them and be like, oh, left me in. Here's the timestamp. Go and fix that. Too sweet. But it's funny because like I don't know if all listeners, I mean, some of them are like that, but I don't know if all listeners take into account some of those things that we listen to on, because we're listening different, and we're like, oh, I heard that they didn't fix that, and oh, is it going to bother me, and how many times are they going to do that throughout the book, and can I finish? So everything that I put out, I had to make sure that the quality lived up to the name of the company, and that the performers gave me everything that they had, and every performer that I worked with always delivered, and I was very proud of everything that they did with me, and so were my clients. And that was all that I could ask for, is that it had quality and everybody enjoyed it and enjoyed the work.
Yeah. Are there genres or types of books that you feel especially shine when they're performed?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I mean, if you know the audio flow, we did a lot of romance books, and but that's a good question. Let me think about that one, because if people didn't know, my favorite genre is actually mystery thrillers.
Ooh.
Yeah, so in action, anything that's like FBI, CIA, those type. I love those. That's my favorite genre. Um, so let me think. Like children's books, I really love children's books. Um, Man, how can I pick a genre? I mean, you know, I don't even have an answer to that, James, and I've never like not had an answer to anything. Um, I did a couple of horror books. Um, it really just depends. To me, it depends on the end user, whoever is listening. But I shoot, all the books shine, James, all of them. I can't I can't necessarily narrow it down because I think most books can do well in audio if given the opportunity to go to audio. And yeah, I mean, there was even comic books. I'm like, gosh, I would love to do this as a
Yeah.
as an audio production. Give me this graphic copy. Let's do this comic book. Let's make it happen. And to me, as long as there's a story, if there's a story and there's somebody that can bring that story to life, then it can be used in audio, whether it's a short form or whether it's long form. It can be done.
I agree. If so, my answer for that question is very similar. So, genre notwithstanding, to me, if the book is written well and there's enough description in there for both scenery and characters,
Mhm.
and then the third and final, if it's performed well,
Yes.
then that genre excels, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that all goes back to your question about what makes a exceptional or impeccable book, or what is all of those factors play into it. You
Yeah.
start with writing because if you don't have anything written, you can't. What are you performing? Like you're not a mime. Nobody's we're you know. So it has to start with good writing, and then it has to go with a good performance, and then on the end, it has to be a good production, and all of those things have to go together. And one of the things that it used to concern me when people would like just say, you know, um, I don't really care. I'm just doing the audiobook because people want it, and not really be invested, in it. And I'm always like, you should invest in that the same way you do the written aspect of your work, and you need to listen to it. You need to hear how it sounds when it's done and be proud of it and promote it. I mean, you're paying for it. um,
Right.
you're paying, and it's not inexpensive. I don't like to use the word cheap. It's not inexpensive. It's expensive. So yeah, you have to have all of those things, and it's going to hit people, um, and it's going to bring people who wouldn't necessarily listen to audio. Again, I was that one. I was like, I don't want to listen to an audio book, and now I'm listen, I'm listening to the Bible, the audio of the Bible audio, because I fell in love with just someone presenting the content to me through their voice.
I love that. So, one final question for you here, Jock.
Okay.
I did see a brief snippet you posted about getting back behind the mic.
Yeah.
Now that the curtain has set on the audio flow, what's next for you? Tell us about that.
Well, so this is the first time that I've actually shared this. So guess what? You get to be first.
All right.
Um, so kind of a little backstory. I there's a couple of reasons why I stepped away audiobook from the audio flow. I just wanted to go in a different direction, where I was being led in a different direction. A lot of people don't know that I'm in ministry. I've been in ministry since 2008. I was an associate pastor for a while, and so there's just things um, that I've been led to do in my spiritual journey in ministry. And since I have the foundation of, audio and podcasting, and I was like, well, I don't want to not use those things. I still want to be able to use it, but now it's just being repurposed for something else. And I said, I really enjoyed podcasting. And there are so many people who need to be reached, and they need to hear people's stories, and it's very similar to what you said, at the beginning, the journeys and the stories, and that was a confirmation. And there's so many people who need to hear our stories of transformation, of that moment where we found Christ. And a lot of people don't necessarily share their stories. And I'll tell you, I wanted this podcast to be called um, living testimonies, but somebody had the name already. And I was like,
Oh,
exactly. I
man.
was like, oh, that was it. And I was like, oh, that's the name, that's the name. And it was very similar content to what I was talking about. So I was like, oh, I can't use that one. And so I just kept thinking about it. And I was like, God, I really, I feel this. I know this is what you're leading me to do. And so I had still been thinking, about names. What is it that you want? I can't tell you the name yet, James. But it is definitely coming. And the whole purpose, again, is like I said, is to talk to people and have them share their testimony, share their story of, well, I'll tell you, it's called, hold on one second.
Yeah.
Oh, ACBA. Okay. It's before conversion, after deliverance. So it's like BC, if you think before Christ,
Right.
AD. So that's what it is. It's BC AD. So it's
Okay.
before conversion and after deliverance.
I
So
like that.
before conversion is whatever you did before you got it. Okay. And so I'm gonna start with giving my testimony and telling my story. And then I'm gonna talk about what happened when I got to Damascus. What happened once I actually got delivered. And so people need to hear that and understand that we all came from somewhere. We were all born just sinners, and that, when you meet Christ, there's a transformation. And so that's what it's about. And it's not to have anybody judged or anything like that, but how we reach people is sharing our testimony and being witnesses. We can't reach anybody if we don't say anything. If we just go around and act like we're high and mighty and we've never done anything, then we're not doing what we've been called to do.
Well, you let me know when it takes off, and I will happily be a guest on that one.
I would love to have you on there. Yeah, you just, it's coming. I got a whole lot of things going on with work and
Sure.
all of that. And I've got to get 316 back out there. And maybe I can just really say 316 because I want to. But I know that was the last question, but I just want to say that I have enjoyed speaking with you and talking to you about this journey. And I would not have changed anything that I have done. If I could do it all over again, I would. The journey was great. Winning the,
The Sovas.
I won in COVID. It was 2020 when I won the first one, and it was for TJ London's book, the first one. And I could
The
not
Tory, right?
the Tory. I was sitting at my kitchen table because it was virtual, and I was dressed up because they said put a dress on. We were nominated in 2 categories, and we didn't win the first one. And I was like, well, we didn't win that one, so there's no way I'm gonna win for best casting director. And when Joan said my name, I cried. I mean, I wasn't even on camera or anything. And it was one of the highlights of my career. And I will always be grateful to her for letting me meet her at a book event and looking at the book cover saying your book needs to be in audio, and just having that opportunity to win that and go on and win a couple of others. And it was such a blessing to be able to do that, and then for you to win. And I mean, it just, all those things make for good stories, and for other people who, like me, are looking to do something and not sure if they can do it. You can do it. You can definitely do it. And anybody who says you can't do it, you prove them wrong and say, yeah, I can and I will. Yeah, I can and I will and I am.
That's it. That's it. Wow. What an incredible conversation, Jock. Thank you so much for just sharing your journey, your passion for storytelling, and the wisdom you've gained from building something meaningful in this audiobook community. Thank you for being a part of the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. And I can't wait to have you on my show. And I am definitely following you and keeping up with you. Get them books written. I know you when it's time to publish, it will be at the right moment. It will be for the right audience. And it will happen smoothly. And I believe that, and I support you. And I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. And I've actually got more to tell you behind or backstage when we stopped you at the show today. And thank you, dear listener, for tuning in to this episode. If you liked what you heard today, I invite you to please rate, review, and subscribe because it really helps us reach more storytellers just like you. Feel free to drop us a line on social media or email us about who you'd love to hear next, or even better, if you would like to be a guest on the show. Also, I host a Discord server where I showcase my behind-the-scenes work of audiobook narration. I invite you to click the link in the show notes because I would love to have you as part of that community as well. And as always, everybody has a story to tell, and I want to hear yours. So until I talk to you next time, dear listener, peace be with you.